All right, today we're going to talk about something pretty radical. What if the entire foundation of modern AI is just wrong? We're going to look at why these incredible tools can be so frustratingly flawed. And then we're going to explore a completely new path forward that rethinks, well, everything. Let's dive in.
We've all been there, right? You ask an AI a pretty simple question and it spits back an answer that sounds super confident but is completely made up. This whole hallucinations problem is one of the biggest roadblocks for AI. But what if it's not some random glitch we can patch? What if it's a direct result of how these things are designed from the ground up?
So, to even begin to find a solution, we have to get to the root of the problem. And the reason AI models lie isn't some simple bug. No, it's a fundamental, critical flaw baked right into their architecture.
So here's the thing you really got to understand. Large language models are built to do one thing incredibly well: predict the next most likely word in a sentence. They are absolute masters of linguistic probability. But they are not designed to be judges of factual truth. An LLM doesn't have some little internal truth checker. So if a lie is statistically plausible, if it sounds right, the AI will state it with total confidence. By its very design, it's a system without a conscience.
Okay, so if that's the wrong way to do it, where do we look for a better blueprint? Well, turns out the answer has been right here the whole time, inside our own skulls. Current AI, as it stands, only really mimics one tiny part of our incredibly complex cognitive machinery.
Okay, let's break down how we think in a super simple way. An LLM is kind of like our brain's association cortex. It is brilliant at just generating and connecting ideas. But in our heads, that's just step one. That creative engine is controlled by other parts, like the basal ganglia, which is like a gatekeeper deciding which dots are even worth acting on. And then there's the hippocampus, our own personal fact checker that keeps everything grounded in what we know to be true. Today's AIs, they're all creativity with zero control. They're missing both the gatekeeper and the fact checker. And that right there is the absolute heart of the problem. These models are fantastic at generating the stuff of thought, the words, the ideas, the connections. But they completely miss the process of thinking, which is all about evaluating, steering, and sometimes just throwing out that ideas. They have the creative spark, but absolutely no critical filter. All right, so we know the current model is incomplete. What does a better one even look like? Well, the solution requires us to totally flip our idea of what intelligence even is. And this is where we have to flip our thinking completely on its head. For years, the assumption has been that a smarter AI is just a bigger AI, one with more data, more parameters. But this new approach says, no, that's not it. True intelligence isn't about how much you've memorized. It's about how quickly and efficiently you can find and use the right piece of information at exactly the right time. I love this analogy. Think about it like this. The old way of building AI is like trying to force a student to memorize every single book in a giant library. It's just wildly inefficient, incredibly expensive, and impossible to keep up to date. The new way? Instead of memorizing the books, you train a genius librarian, a small, fast, efficient model that doesn't store all the information, but knows exactly where to find anything in an instant. We're basically shifting from building bigger hard drives to building way, way smarter search engines. And get this is the really cool part. This whole librarian model means we could potentially get to artificial general intelligence that is thousands of times smaller and more efficient. We're talking about an AI that doesn't need a giant data center to run, but could literally live right on your phone, accessing the world's knowledge whenever it needs to. Okay, but how do we build this super librarian AI? Well, buckle up, because it turns out the perfect mathematical language for the job comes from a place you'd probably never expect: quantum physics. Now hang on, don't click away. We are not diving into crazy complex physics, I promise. It's all about using the concepts from that field as a seriously powerful tool. Okay, let me give you an example. Think about the word bank. Right now, what does it mean? Could be a riverbank, could be a money bank. It's kind of both at once, right? It's in a superposition of meanings. But the second I say I'm going to the riverbank, bam, the other meaning just vanishes. The context collapses the possibilities into one definite state. That's semantic entanglement. And it just so happens that the math of quantum mechanics is the perfect way to describe it. Okay, that's a neat trick with words, but how in the world does this help us stop an AI from just making stuff up? How does it connect back to our original problem? Well, the answer is actually really elegant. Using this quantum-inspired math, we can draw a hard line inside the AI's model. We can create a fact space that's built only from verified, trusted sources, and then a fiction space for, everything else. A hallucination, then, is just an unwanted link, a sort of leakage between these two spaces. And this approach gives us a mathematical way to build a firewall to stop that leakage and keep the AI's answers grounded in reality. And the best part? This isn't just some sci-fi theory for 20 years from now. This new kind of AI is actually being built and tested as we speak, using the computers that we already have.
This is where a tool called Crack comes into the picture. It's basically the software engine that's making this whole revolution possible. It's a super high-performance simulator that can run these quantum-inspired models on today's regular old hardware. And the key is, it uses a really clever mathematical trick that lets it handle these huge conceptual spaces without getting bogged down. It's literally the bridge that lets us walk from these cool theories into reality.
Okay, so let's zoom out and put all these pieces together. What does this new architecture actually mean for the future of the AI industry? You've probably seen this before, right? The famous Gartner hype cycle. Generative AI hit its absolute peak of hype back in 2023. And right about now, we're sliding down into what's called the trough of disillusionment. This is where companies are starting to realize that for critical tasks, current LLMs are often unreliable and really expensive. But this isn't a bad thing. It's a totally predictable and necessary step before the next real breakthrough.
So what gets us out of that slump? It's something called agentic AI. These aren't just passive chatbots anymore. We're talking about active systems that can create a plan, carry it out, and, this is the most important part, verify their own work. The new quantum-inspired architecture we've been talking about is what provides the reliability and the fact-checking needed to make that future a reality.
So at the end of the day, it all boils down to this one simple question. For years, the big race in AI has been all about building a bigger brain. But what if the real breakthrough isn't about size at all, but about a smarter design? The next giant leap forward in AI might not come from building a bigger library, but from finally training a much, much smarter librarian. Something to think about, right?